Okay, friends, final stretch here. We are going to talk about troubleshooting HubSpot. This session is, it's got a little less content than the other two. At Inbound, I used that to my advantage to cover some stuff at the end I wasn't able to cover in my previous sessions. But because YouTube does not have a 45-minute limit, you've been getting kind of the director's cut here. The optimizing HubSpot went well over that 45-minute mark. So I think this will be a pretty tidy 30 minutes or so, and we will send you on your way. So once again, just give me a second here to share my screen, and we will be on our way. So here we go. All right, welcome to Troubleshooting HubSpot. This is the third and final session in this three-part series, Things Every HubSpot Admin Needs to Know. I am Kyle Jepson. This is the rest of me. I love these things besides HubSpot, but I mostly love HubSpot. That's what's relevant to you here. So let's hop right into that. Today we were talking about how to troubleshoot HubSpot, and we're going to start with platform features. These apply to all of you, no matter what subscriptions or hubs you have. Then we'll go to some pro tools. We're finally going to talk about reporting in this session. I've been kicking that can down the road for the last two sessions. Now we're going to talk about troubleshooting reports. We're also going to talk about workflows and all the things you can do to troubleshoot those. Then we're going to move on to some enterprise features, sandboxes, and impersonation, and wrap it up there. So let's just hop right in with the platform features. When it comes to troubleshooting, a lot of what you're going to be doing is a sort of detective work, investigating what happened, who did what. Someone's going to say, I had this deal, I can't find it now, who moved it? And you've got to dig into the history to understand, was it a user who made a mistake? Was it a workflow that did something unexpected? Is it a permissioning issue? What's going on here? So you have property history and association history, and then you also have a couple of useful properties here, merged IDs and record source property. So if we go on over to the contacts page, and if we look at a contact here, property history exists in a couple of different formats. So if there's just a value in a property and you're wondering where it came from, for any property in HubSpot, you can just hover over it, click this details button, and see when it was updated, where it came from, right? You'll see multiple values here. If it has changed over time, you'll be able to see who changed it. In this case, you can even see that I changed it on the mobile app, and you can see the date that it was changed. If it was a workflow that updated it, or an import is where this value came from, you will see that information here. That's if you're trying to figure out what happened for a particular property. If you know the property in question, you can dig into it that way. Now, if you have broader questions, if something has just changed, things don't seem right on this record somehow, you can go to the full property history and see all the changes that have ever occurred in any property for this record. And this is going to be pages and pages and pages, and you're going to see all these different places that things were updated, right? I've been updating things in the UI. Some of these standard properties like last modified date, they get updated automatically by HubSpot, and you can get some information about what that means. Activities, right? There are lots of different sources for these things, lots of different properties that might be updated over time, and you can really dig in and figure out what's going on. So that's property history. Something that is even more elusive and frustrating for people than property changes is association changes. If I have a deal associated with a contact record, and then I come look at my contact record and that deal is gone, understanding what happened can be very difficult unless you're looking at association history. So this thing that may just be a mystery to your sales rep or whatever end user, you as an admin, you can come in here, look at the association history, and you can see when associations were created or removed for all the different types of records that can be associated to this record, in this case, a contact. You can see the dates and who made the change and what happened. So you can find that deal that disappeared and go back to it. So those are the two histories that are really worth noting. The other ones I mentioned are both properties. So if we look at the merged IDs property, which I have here on my index page, merged contact IDs, this is a contact property. You can see this record, which has its own ID. If we peek down at the bottom there, it looks like the ID for this one is 1062. At some point, it was merged with a contact with an ID 56509. And if you merge records multiple times, this will be a common delineated list. You will see all the previous IDs for records that have been merged together. So if you're trying to track down a particular record, you have its ID and it doesn't exist anymore, you can find it here in the merge contact IDs. You can see where it went, what it got merged into. The other good property that's good for sleuthing in HubSpot is called record source. There's also original source, which is an older property. Record source is an updated version of this. There's record source, and then there's detail properties. Original source has drill down properties, but it's a similar concept. So you can come set record source to a particular value, or if you're looking at a record and wondering where it came from, you can look at record source and see which of these many options it came from. And if you're trying to find similar records, like if you know this one came through a particular integration, right? You could set this to integration. Then you could set look at the detail properties to see which specific integration it came from. And then you could use that to search and filter and find other records who came from that same source. So that's kind of the basic detective work you can do inside of HubSpot. In most cases, if something weird is going on, chances are it's either going to be one of these things or it's going to be some sort of user access issue. Now let's talk about security. There are two main places you're going to look at security inside HubSpot. One is audit logs. One is the security center. Now, audit logs used to be spread around a variety of different places. We have consolidated those, so you now have one unified audit log. And if you just come over to the audit log section, you can see a list of all the secure, sensitive things particular users can do. You can filter this to see particular user activity, and not just users, but even like chatbots and things, right? And you can filter to see a particular kind of action, right? Who's been deleting things, who's been publishing or unpublishing things. Lots of different options here for you to dig in. And this is just a good place for you to monitor. You can export this report if you need, but if you have, especially if you have compliance issues you need to resolve, this is the place to keep an eye on that. The other thing to be aware of is the security center. If you come to security here, what you're going to see here are some recommendations about how to improve the security health of your HubSpot account. And see, you can see if there are inactive apps, right? And you can click the manage button and you can see those and go view them. These are high risk actions, medium risk, low risk, and a lot of times there are buttons that will help you get to the setting or to the user that needs to be changed. Look at these top scores to see kind of how you're doing overall, and that is very useful. And then under settings and activity, you can just get you can set different security measures, right? So if you want to set up single sign-on or two-factor authentication, if you want to control when a session times out after a certain amount of activity, right? You can be super aggressive about this, have people logged out of their HubSpot account if they're inactive for 15 minutes. You can be super lax and give them 3 days to actually do something. You'll need to set your own best practices here, but you do have some flexibility. Limit to logins to allowed IPs. If you really want to control access so that only certain people are logging in from certain places, especially if you have an office or something, you can add those IP addresses here, and no one from any other IP will be able to log into your HubSpot account. Here, you can choose whether or not HubSpot employees have access to your account. Now, let me be very clear about this. I never, under any circumstances, have access to your account. The only way I can get there is if you add me as a user. HubSpot is very careful about which types of employees are actually able to do this. But if you call into our support team and you want them to hop in and help you fix something, this box better to be checked or they will not be able to access your account. So yeah, for certain compliance reasons, right, especially if you're now that HubSpot can store secure or sensitive data, you really want to be careful about this. You may not want to allow HubSpotters in under any circumstances. You can uncheck that box and then none of us will be able to get in. But if it's helpful to you to be able to call into the support team, have them take a look at what's going on and see what you're seeing, you'll want to leave this checked. And then a lot of these activity logs down here have now been consolidated into the audit log and redirect there. But if you're looking for a specific thing, it might be tucked away in one of those links. So that's security stuff. Now let's talk about users. As I said, a lot of times issues come down to either property or association history or to user management. And if users are trying to access something and can't, or can't see something and think it has been deleted, it could just be that they have lost access for whatever reason. So there are several ways for you to take a look at what's going on here. One is compare access, which I just think is so fun. If you're coming in and looking at users and teams, you can select a couple of users and compare the differences in their level of access. So if we check these two right here, we can click this compare access button. And what I really like is this toggle switch, right? If we just saw a list of all their permissions, that would be sort of overwhelming and really hard for a human to read. It wouldn't be that helpful. But if you hide similarities, then we're just going to see the things that are different. And these two users are actually very similar. They're just different in these few rows. And if one has access to something and the other one doesn't, this can maybe help you zero in on what's happening there. Additionally, you can look at users' permission history. So if you want to see, if a user is saying, hey, I had access to something and I've lost access to it, you should check their permission history, view user permission history, and see if it's their access that changed, or if maybe an owner property changed or something like that. And here, something I want to call out here that I think is so interesting. I love the transparency here in HubSpot. We've added a lot of new permission settings in the last year or so. You can see August 2024, June, July 24. This user was given a whole bunch of new permissions, but it's not that he was granted access to things he didn't have before. It's that we didn't have permission controls for ChatSpot, now called Copilot, or for things like editing, file manager viewer or lead scoring viewer, right? These are content remix editor. These are new features. They have new permissions. We are defaulting to people having access to it. But if you're wondering, like, hey, why does he have access to the remix editor? That's why, because everyone does, unless you go take it away from them. So that is permission history. Record access and shared records are fun new features that exist on the record level. So we come away from users and back to the CRM here in the contact setting. And once again, if we look at this record here, there are a couple of things that are really very useful for you as an admin. So first of all, if we come over to view record access, we can see who has access to this record. And we can see the contact owner highlighted here. And we have a few other tabs here. We can see owners and look at different properties, and we can see how the history has changed over time. But this is, if someone is wondering who has access, who is touching, who's looking at a record, you can come in here and see who is able to actually do that. So that's really helpful, might guide you in making some changes. The other thing that's new and really cool is the ability to share a contact. And actually, I'll show you this on the index page. These are a couple of properties, and they behave like properties. You can use them in all the ways you use properties. You could update them with workflows and things, but they control permissions. So if we just check a box next to one of these, right, and we can now share this record. And there are some things that are very interesting about this experience. First of all, if for example, Cam here doesn't have access, if you look at his permissions and they make it so he does not have access to this particular record, you can check this box and that will give him access. That is pretty cool. You can do the same thing at the team level. If you want to give all of Team A access to this, you can do that. And a couple of things that are really interesting, remember, this can be updated by a workflow, right? You can append new users here. And so if at a certain deal stage or some other programmatic way you want to update who has access to this record, you can do that, and that's pretty wild. The other thing that's really interesting, and this is purely speculative, is this is the first time HubSpot has ever had a user type property that can hold more than one value, right? And it's also the first time it's ever had a team type property that was anything but read only. Usually you have like an owner property that is editable, and then the team property just updates to say which team that owner is on, right? Currently, there is nowhere else this exists. You cannot create a custom user property and put more than one value in there. You cannot create a custom editable team property. But the fact that this architecture is now here makes me very curious about what's coming in the future. And I think it's definitely an area we should all keep our eyes on. So that's user management here. Let's talk about backups. This is new and this is really exciting. Let's take a look at this. So some of this is new and some of it is coming soon. So if you come into your portal and you find the backup section, which is down here under object management, you're going to see a slightly lighter weight experience than this right now. Of course, this is a YouTube video, so someday you will see what I'm seeing here. But if you're watching this soon after I publish it, probably you will not see the second tab. What you'll see is you'll come in here and you'll see the Create Backup button. And you can go ahead and create that backup. And what it's doing is it's creating a zip file with CSVs of all of your contacts, companies, conversations, deals, tickets, custom objects, products, calls, and tasks data. And then you have that. Once it's done, it'll be available here. It'll tell you the last date, right? Today is September 27th. The last one I made was September 12th. They expire after 2 weeks. And once it's done processing this backup, which will take a while, I have quite a bit of data, I'll be able to download it. I can restore it by importing it. That's pretty cool. What is coming soon that makes this really awesome is the ability to restore data from a backup. So my backup has expired and I'm making a new one. But if I had an active backup, I would be able to choose the data I want to restore and revert my CRM back to that state. That's incredible. HubSpot has never had any functionality like this before. If you think about the option to import backup data, which you can do, that's a little different than actually restoring data, right? You're going to update values to what they were, but it's not the same as rolling back the CRM. This is a very exciting new experience. And backup data, I believe this functionality, the backup is complete. Look, now we can see September 27th is the last time we did this. And I bet if I come back over here, now I will have the option to choose data to restore, right? And if I come into this experience, I can choose the objects and the properties and the things I want to do. That's really cool. My understanding is most subscriptions, maybe all subscriptions, have this basic backup feature. If you are an enterprise customer, sometime soon you're going to be able to set recurring backups. If you want this to automatically happen every couple weeks, you can do that to make those save points as you progress through time. Super exciting. Definitely something to check out and explore and start using. So that's the platform stuff. Now let's talk about troubleshooting, reports, and workflows. And reports, man, the reason I have deferred on reporting in my previous sessions, I have not taught you this, is partially because there's just no time to do a really good job teaching you how to do reporting. We could do a full session on that. We could do a full day on that probably. And absolutely check out some of the reporting education we have in HubSpot Academy. You can go deep. You can get a good foundation. There are other places on the web you can do it too. HubSpot Academy certainly doesn't have a monopoly on this. And I am just not the right person to teach you how to report. I am the right person to teach you how to troubleshoot reports because I'm very good at causing trouble with reports because of my own reporting ineptitude. So let me show you what this looks like. And I am completely serious when I tell you that this is the sort of way I would go about building a report. And these are the sorts of user errors that often will come to admins like you. Someone will say, hey, I told HubSpot to pull a report showing me this information. It's giving me a report showing me this other information. HubSpot is clearly broken. Let's contact support and submit a bug report, right? But you as an admin need to have enough reporting acumen to be able to tell the difference between user error and a problem with the platform. And again, I don't mean to cast aspersions at anyone. I do not have that as a strength. I'm going to build a report poorly. And I imagine some of you watching this will be like, oh my goodness, Kyle, why would you ever do that? And some of you are going to come along this garden path with me and be like, no, that makes sense. What did you do wrong? And if you're in that second camp, take some time to take some Academy courses or some edX courses or some other courses to get that foundation in just, understanding how data and analytics work. But here, come on this journey with me. Let's go build a report. Let's imagine I want a report. I have a registration form for an upcoming event or whatever, and I want to see over time, how many people are submitting that form, right? So I'm going to come into a single object report, and I want to know how many people are submitting this thing. So we're gonna make a contacts report, and what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and we're gonna grab a form submission. We want and then we'll get rid of this, and then we're gonna filter this. I'm gonna do it to is all time, just because that's the only way to get any data in this report, given the nature of my test data here. But the serious thing I'm doing that I would do if I was building this even in a portal with lots of data that's current is I would filter this to form submission, right? I'm gonna say I want just the form submissions for my registration form, wherever that is. Ta-da. And we'll apply that filter. Now here you'll have to use your imagination a little bit. There are only 2 people that have submitted my registration form, but imagine there are hundreds, right? Imagine this goes on for pages and pages, and we've got this list, right? Now we're going to make a visualization, and I want to see, this form submission thing. And so I come over here, and even before I'm able to select a different visualization, I detect a problem. I'm interested in my registration form only, and I filtered it. So I'm only looking at registration form submissions. Why do I have all these other forms in here? I'm going to talk to my admin. I'm going to say, look, look at my filters. It says registration form only, but I'm seeing these 6 other forms. HubSpot's broken. Let's submit a bug. Man, this platform, why does it not work the way I want it to, right? Some of you are laughing at me. Some of you are lost, right? And this is a mistake I've made in real life, and it took a long conversation with people much smarter than me to understand what I did wrong. Let me see if I can distill it down for you. This is a contacts-based report. What we're seeing is a count of contacts. And yes, we have filtered it down to just the contacts who have submitted my registration form. Those 2, see, 2 here have submitted the registration form. But it turns out those same 2 contacts have submitted other forms also. So even though we're only looking at the contacts who have submitted the registration form, we are seeing a list of all of the forms they have submitted, which is more than just a registration form, which is why we get this sort of counterintuitive result. Now, if I as a user am like, HubSpot is broken, and I come talk to you, if you don't have the level of experience with reporting to understand that this is user error and not a problem with the report, it's going to be very hard for you to tell the difference between user error and a problem with HubSpot, right? If you're going to troubleshoot reports, you've got to know a lot about reporting. So please go get that education if you don't already have it. The real solution to this problem is not to create a contacts-based report. It's to go to the new marketing analytics tool and build a forms report, right? There's one there ready to go, or just go to forms tool and look at the performance of your registration form. You can do those things in HubSpot. But these are the kinds of mistakes that users make a lot with filters and data selection. And you as an admin, I intend this to be a sort of litmus test of how proficient you are at reporting, both building and troubleshooting. And so hopefully that is instructive to you. Refresh rates this is actually really exciting. This is now the 3rd year I've done a session in Inbound called Things Every HubSpot Admin Needs to Know. And every year I come in and I open up a report and I complain about refresh rates in HubSpot. Well, the product team, without even telling me, have made it so there's nothing left for me to complain about. So what used to happen is you would come in and you would open an individual report like this. If you open the report viewer, this is an all new report viewer experience. It used to be much simpler, but now you get this. And the way data works in HubSpot is we have all your data stored somewhere, right? And your dashboards, if you're looking at a reporting dashboard, the data on that dashboard automatically refreshes something like every 2 hours. It's not that often, right? And you can go hit the refresh button, but they are pulling from a cache of data that's refreshed every 15 minutes. So a lot of times what would happen is someone's building a report, they're changing data, they come open the report, they hit refresh, and that refresh button here under this menu does not do a thing. And that's really frustrating. And it feels like HubSpot's broken because I know I changed this data and it's not flowing through. But that 15-minute refresh rate was invisible, and the refresh button was just kind of a button that I would say this button is a lie, right? That's what I love to say on the inbound stage. It made me feel so alive to say something almost half critical of HubSpot. But there's nothing left to complain about. As I said, there is a refresh button, but look, it's telling me the data was last updated 3 minutes ago. There is no, now there is new data from 2 minutes ago is available. Okay, go ahead and hit that refresh button. The thing that's so fun about this is it will tell you honestly whether or not there is new data available. But the thing that's also really interesting is data was updated, it used to say 3 minutes ago, right? That's about when I opened this report, which means every time you view a report, the data is automatically getting refreshed. So you're never going to open a report and see stale data anymore. That's awesome. That's a silent, quiet update to HubSpot I didn't even know about until I started preparing for this presentation. But if you do a lot of reporting and you're digging at a really granular level into your data and stuff, this is going to help you a lot. Every report you look at, if you open it in this report viewer view, is going to be fresh. That's awesome. Good job, HubSpot product team. Now let's talk about workflows. There are a lot of updates to workflows in the past year or so that make troubleshooting, you just have so many more new options that you didn't have before. So let's go through some of these. Let's go through all of them. How about? If we come to workflows, there are lots of different things you can do. So first of all, for a workflow that is live, kind of the old standard way to troubleshoot a workflow that's been around for years and years is you can go to the details page and you can go over to the audit logs section, or action logs, section, and you can see for every record that's ever been enrolled, every action that was taken by the workflow. And this is kind of a lot to dig through. And there's a better solution now. But the thing I want to call out is if there's ever a record and you're not sure why it enrolled, you can click this "Why did it enroll" button, and it will tell you what criteria was met. And you can see the record timeline. And this is really helpful, right? If a workflow updated a record that you were not expecting to get enrolled, you can come in here, you can say, "Why did it enroll?" and it'll tell you. But what's even better is if you go into the workflow itself, there's this new option here where you can see, if we go to view, the enrollment history. And what this is going to show you is every record that has enrolled. And if you click on one of these and say view logs, not only do you get a list of those audit logs here on the right, but you get a color-coded journey. If you have lots of branches and things, you can see where this record went as it went through this workflow. And that is amazing, right? And if you click on individual actions, it expands the section over here. You can see them. If any of these had failed or triggered an error, they would be circled in red instead of green. This is much better. This is much easier, much more human readable than just filtering through all those action logs, right? Here, you have kind of an interactive screen. You can see which branch someone took. You can understand why. You can see what happened. I love that. That's awesome. That's for troubleshooting at the individual level. If you want to troubleshoot at the aggregate level, right? You have all these branches. You want to know what percentage of things are going down different branches, what percentages are reaching a certain endpoint. That's what this metrics view is for. Now, this, I didn't turn on tracking recently enough. This is not here by default for every workflow. You need to go turn it on. But if you do, and then you send some records through, you will see at each branch, what percentage went down that branch. At each endpoint, what number made it to that endpoint. And if you're looking at a workflow like this, and 100% are reaching a specific endpoint, or 0% are reaching another endpoint, now you have to ask yourself, are all these branches needed? Are they dividing up the records the way I want them to? This is a really powerful insight for you as a person who's looking to optimize a workflow, sure, but also if you're troubleshooting and wondering, why are people not ending up at this endpoint I want them to? You can start to see like, wow, no, nobody is. It's not just this one record. This is an issue with the workflow itself. So that's really great. Another thing you can do, if you come over to performance history here, is you can troubleshoot enrollment. So we saw, why did this person enroll? And again, that enrollment history we're looking at, it gives you some information about that. Why did they enroll? Oops, sorry, that's the wrong thing. See why this contact enrolled. That same sidebar we looked at earlier opens up, so you can access it in two different ways. That's fun, either from the action logs or from in here. But the thing that's more abstract and has been harder to understand previously is, why didn't a particular record enroll, right? Like, I really thought this one was going to enroll at a particular time. I think Matt Brown should have enrolled in this date range. Why didn't he? Now, this one, there's no information because I think the enrollment on this one is just email is known. So literally every contact in my database has been through this particular workflow. But if there's one that you think someone should have enrolled in and they didn't, you can search for them in that troubleshoot enrollment section, and it will tell you, actually, they had this value before the workflow was turned on, and when the workflow was turned on, you didn't check the box for enrolling current matches, right? Or maybe their value was changed after the workflow was already turned. Well, it'll tell you different things, and you can troubleshoot both why someone did and why someone didn't enroll in a workflow. And I'm saying someone as though this only applies to contacts. You can enroll lots of things besides contacts in a workflow, and you can troubleshoot those also. Now let's talk about the needs review tab. If we go back to the main workflows page here, you are going to see, sorry, come back over here, workflows, got it. You're going to see this needs review tab. And I have 8 workflows here that needs review. These are ones HubSpot is just itself identifying as these have a problem. And if you click review issues, you're going to come back to the details page, and it's going to take you to the issues tab. And here it's unable to update a property for some reason. If you click review this issue, it'll give you the error log. It'll give you some suggestions on how to address this issue. And then for your own tracking purposes and your personal accountability, you can choose to mark this as fixed. Yes, I've addressed this problem. I don't know if I've fixed it or not. Remind me to check again after a certain day or after a certain amount of time, or let's just ignore it. HubSpot, you're a hypochondriac. There's nothing wrong here. Stop bothering me about this. And this is just going to help you manage those. And then you can check that needs review tab from time to time, and it will It will tell you which ones need review. That's super helpful for you if you're managing, especially a lot of workflows. We talked about action logs. Enrollment testing, yes, and branching logic. Okay, let's do this real quick. If we go to let's see, I have created a workflow with lots of branches in it. Let's do this one. So as you're building a workflow, before you turn it on, so that you don't get in a situation where you have to do a lot of troubleshooting. Why did this record enroll? Why didn't it enroll? You can test it. You can just select a contact. I want to see what would happen if this contact was enrolled in this workflow. And if your workflow is going to be sending emails, you can have those emails sent to you. It'll have the contact's personalization tokens, but you will get the email so you can see the experience this person will have. And if you test it, it will tell you what branch they'll go down and whether or not they enroll. And that sort of thing. Now, everybody enrolls in this one because there's no enrollment criteria, but that's a very powerful tool for you to use before you turn a workflow on. The other thing I want you to know is in terms of branching logic. So if we look at this branching logic, we're looking at a number property, number of times contacted. And we have 4 branches. We're saying if number of times contacted is less than 10 or is empty, we're going to go down branch 1. If number of times contacted is less than 50, we're going to go down branch 2. If number of times contacted is less than 100, we're going to go down branch 3. And if none of those criteria are met, we're going to go down branch 4. Now, here is an important thing for you to understand. As you're making criteria like this, you can do is less than, equal to, is greater than or equal to, but there is no between. You can't set a range. And you might wonder, why not? What if I want to set a range? Well, the thing you need to understand is that HubSpot will check these branches in order. So first it's going to say, is the number of times contacted in this example less than 10 or 0? Let's say the number of times contacted is currently 75. Okay, so we're going to come here. Is 75 less than 10 or empty? No, it's not. So we go to branch 2. Is it less than 50? No, it's not. So we come to branch 3. Is it less than 100? Yes, we will go down branch 3. So even though this branch says number of times contacted is less than 100, because of the order of the branches, what this branch actually is number of times contacted is equal to or greater than 50 and less than 100. You do have between logic, but you have to build it with multiple branches. So that's an important thing to remember when you're troubleshooting. If you have a branch that says a number property is less than 100, and you have a record that has a number that's less than 100, but it didn't go down that branch, maybe the order of the logic of these branches is why it went down a different branch. And then re-enrollment, I created a slide for you here. Honestly, transparently, I thought this slide would get some laughs at inbound, and it did not. So prepare to cringe. Workflow re-enrollment has been very complicated in the past, but it is getting better. So we have more ways to enroll workflows than we ever have before. And this when an event occurs option is great. Re-enrollment always works if you use when an event occurs. But when an event occurs is not going to be a fit for everything you want to do, right? When filter criteria is met makes a lot of sense. If you want to automate things for people who are in a particular location or have a particular job title, you're going to use filter criteria. And when you do that, re-enrollment is available in these situations. When you use an is equal to filter, when you're talking about page views or integrations, when you use an is known filter, and when you're talking about form submissions, events, or list memberships. And I tried to come up with a helpful acronym here. I'm going to say if your filter criteria is not one of these things, you're going to have an epic fail. I think it's a good joke. I'm really impressed that I got these into an acronym that is actually kind of almost words, even if they are spelled poorly. Anyway, and then number 3, schedules and workflows. Re-enroll is needed. Those are going to work. You just have to set it up the way you want it to. So that is re-enrollment. We get lots of questions. Our support team gets lots of questions about why re-enrollment is grayed out and can't be turned on, or why a record doesn't re-enroll, or why it did. We didn't expect it to go through more than once, and it did. This is all good things for you to consider as you're troubleshooting your workflows. Now, home stretch here. Let's talk about a couple of enterprise tools. First up is sandboxes. Sandboxes are a way to make a test environment, a replica of your HubSpot account, where you can change things and test things and turn stuff on and off and see what's going to happen without affecting your actual data or users. So, whoops, sorry, wrong thing. If we come over here, sandboxes is in the settings. It has its own little section. Come on, internet, we will do this. So Sandboxes are right here. If you want to create a sandbox, I created this one during inbound. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it real quick so you can see the process of creating a sandbox. So if you haven't created a sandbox, you'll see the 0 state page. You can click build sandbox. You can give it a name. I named it Barry. How about this one's Hank? I don't know what the point of the name is because right now you can only create one sandbox. You can sync all support assets, but I like to select specific assets just so I can be super clear on what I'm going to be syncing, right? And your options here, object definitions are always brought over, but you can choose forms, lists, marketing emails, pipelines, themes, templates, and modules, and workflows if you want. And then contacts and associated records, please note it's just 5,000 of your most recent updated contacts and up to 100 associated deals, 100 associated companies, 100 associated tickets for each contact. So this is going to be probably a subset of your database. For me, mine's small enough that it brings all of them over, but this is just a good thing to know. There isn't, if you have millions of contacts in companies, we're not going to bring all of those over into your sandbox. And then things get even more granular on this screen, right? For your forms, you can select if there are specific forms you do or do not want to bring over. You can unselect all, select all. Same for lists, marketing emails, all of these. You can choose, well, object definitions you have to have, but all the rest of them, you can choose which ones you want, which ones you don't want. And then contacts and associated records, once again, just gives you the same message. Then you click next. It gives you an overview. You can double check, make sure you're getting what you wanted, and then go ahead and build that sandbox. And now it is syncing, it's taking that data over. And once that's done, you can click into the sandbox and it looks exactly like your production account, except you'll have a yellow banner across the top saying you are now in a sandbox. So that's great for testing purposes. There currently is no way to push what you build in a sandbox into production, which I know is a thing that drives a lot of people crazy. I don't have any insights into whether that's something we're building or it's coming soon or not or whatever, but currently the sandbox is just a place for you to go play in the sand. Try things out, build them, see if they work, and then if you like it, you can build it in your production account, and if you don't like what happened, no harm done. That's sandboxes. Impersonation. These are both enterprise features, remember. Impersonation, I think, is actually not called that anymore, but this is the ability for you as an admin to log in as another user and see what they see, right? So you're on the phone with Andre, or slacking with him, or teamsing with him, or whatever you're doing, or he walks over to your desk and he says, hey, when I log into HubSpot, I can't see this thing, or this looks weird, or I can't find this thing in the nav. What's going on? You could just open up his permissions and look at them line by line and try to figure it out and picture it in your head. Or if you're an enterprise user, you can use this login as user option, and then you will see what they see. So if we do this real quick, we'll log in as this user, and what you're going to see immediately is Andre doesn't have access to the users page, so I get this lock thing, right? And I get this banner across the top saying I'm temporarily logged in as Andre. Please, use this power wisely. Also, Andre just received an email saying someone has logged in as an admin has logged in as you. So you can't do this sneakily. You shouldn't want to do it sneakily. Only do this if you're going to be helping people. But then if you need to go over, check out contacts, see what he's seeing, look at the record, see if the customization is coming through the right way. This can help you get a real handle on reality of what's going on for this user. And then you can log back in as yourself and hopefully fix those problems. So that's impersonation. Again, I added this bonus section at inbound because there were so many things I couldn't get to. But I feel pretty good about what we've covered in these YouTube videos. I do every Tuesday. I run a webinar to help people with admin. Scan this QR code to see what events we have coming up. Register for those, join them. Would love to have you there with me. Leave any comments on this YouTube video, questions you have, things you'd like to see me make videos about. But I appreciate you hanging with me here on YouTube. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to share it with your friends. And yeah, best of luck troubleshooting stuff in HubSpot. Have a great day. Bye.